G'day there, trendsetters. Welcome to another Parsha and Psychology session. This week, we're going to be looking at Parsha's Tazria and Metzora. And we're going to jump on the bandwagon with what happened at the Oscars with Will and Jada Smith and Chris Rock. But hopefully we're going to march to a bit of a different drum. We're going to go, or at least attempt to go deeper into our parts, into inner systems, into Chassidus, and hopefully gain a better understanding. Because as the Baal Shem Tov taught us, no matter what we see in our life, no matter what we observe, it's teaching us something that we need to take on board, teaching us something about ourselves. And even when we see a blemish or leprosy on other people, or something that could be interpreted to be as such, we need to look within. We need to look to our own internal system and see what's going on there that led us to see that. Because there's an inner taking, an inner lesson to take on board with that. And part of, obviously part of us would be very tempted to look at this on a very pshat level, on a very simple meaning level, on a horizontal level, as Robert Bly would talk about in the Sibling Society. And that part needs to be honoured. I think it would be very interesting to look at it from an evolutionary psychology perspective, which would give us a very good pshat, a very good simple meaning. And we could look at status, we could look at dominance hierarchy, we could look at mate value, mate defection, all these things, symboling mate worth, honour, all these things. These are important. But I want to put those to a side and I want to go a bit more vertical, where we look up, or at least try to go. We look up and we look down and we look inside. And, whenever I see things like this, I'm reminded of a quote by Larry Hite, who was one of the market wizards in the Market Wizards Trader book by Jack Schwager, where he says, "Frankly, I don't see markets. I see risks, rewards, and money." Where he really distilled things down to their essence. And when I see things like this, and because I'm really, really fascinated with IFS, when I see events like this, frankly, I don't see controversy. What I see people, I see parts, I see protectors, I see exiles, I see pain, and I see people trying to make the best of it. And I think we all need to just access a bit of compassion and go, wow, let's not look at this from good or bad, but look at it from a perspective, how much could these people not help but do? And I really want to honestly say that Will and Jada Smith are obviously in a lot of pain. And I really think they would greatly benefit in self-discovery through IFS and an approach of IFS marriage therapy, which is called IFIO, Intimacy from the Inside Out, where people are encouraged to make a U-turn and look within at what's going on within their own internal system, and it's causing them to act in certain ways. Maybe it's causing somebody to build up walls around their heart. Maybe it's causing somebody to be very angry and volatile. Maybe it's causing somebody to seek love and validation and sensuality and sexuality outside the marriage and everywhere except in the marriage. There's always a reason, there's always a rationale, there's always a motive of our parts to do things to protect us from pain. And we need to get curious with it. And I really think Will and Jada Smith have an incredible opportunity right now to show to themselves and to show to the world, given their status and their place on the world stage, how a marriage with such pain and such hurdles can actually heal. And I think they should really call Richard Schwartz. They would have the pull and the money to maybe access him, and they should go to Yoda himself and get from him. I think that would greatly benefit them. Anyway, I think when we look at the names, I really think Hashem is trying to teach us a lesson here. This has literally been a slap to all of our faces to wake up. We look at the names, and I couldn't make this up myself. The name Jada actually comes from the Hebrew to yada, to know. The complete book of Hebrew names. I looked it up, I couldn't believe it. I thought I was making it up, I thought I was drawing a long bow. Jada comes from yada, to know. And in marriage, in a relationship, it's all about knowing. When Adam first knew Eve, he said, ladat, to know. But what does it mean to know? True knowledge is about knowing what we know and knowing what we don't know. When it comes to wisdom, chokhmah, there's an element of koach ma. We change the letters around to mean, what is my strength? Koachma, there's a level of humility, a level of grasping that we cannot grasp everything. This is true when it comes to our knowledge of Hashem. We can study Chassidus, as I'm learning this amazing Maimer in Derech Mitzvah Secha. This is Chassidus of the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Lubavitcher Rebbe. I'm learning this with a teacher and a mentor from Mayanot Yeshiva, who's now in Melbourne, and a couple of them fellow blokes. And we're learning, and it's a Maimer on Amunah, on faith. And we're talking about Das, knowledge. But true knowledge, true Das, when it comes to Chabad Chassidus, there's Chochmah, there's wisdom, there's Bina, there's understanding, there's Das, there's the integration into knowledge. We become aware of what we're not aware of. We become filled with knowledge of that which we cannot possibly fully grasp and know. We can know its existence, Yedias HaMetzias, knowing that aspects of godliness exist, but we cannot come truly to terms with Hasagas HaMahus, grasping the essence of God. And the same thing goes in a relationship, whether it's Will and Yada and Jada, or each one of us with our significant other, our soulmate, our spouse, our life partner. There is an element that we can know and we can understand and be curious about, but there's also a mystery in our spouse. There's also a level that we can be curious about but unknowing. Know that we cannot fully grasp it. It's the level of Abraham when he was asked by the three angels, where is Sarah? Rav Shlomo Carlebach says, she's in the tent. Meaning Abraham grasped, there was a part of her that was shrouded in mystery. There's a part of Adam, when he meets Chava, he's acting surprised and astounded and amazed. Wow, Zot hapam etzem etzamai. This time, the bone of my bones, uvasar mivsari, in the flesh of my flesh. There's a level of Achashverosh and his curiosity when Esther comes to him and he goes, Malach, what's with you, Esther? Where are you holding? Uma bakashatech, and what do you want from me? I think true knowledge, whether it's with God and whether it's with our significant others or others in our life, comes from an aspect of mystery, grasping that we will never fully understand everything. Just as nobody else can fully understand us and our internal exiles and our internal protectors. They can understand them in a general way, but not in an essential way. And that's very important because it leads to curiosity. It leads to compassion. And it leads to, as the names imply, the William, the Ratzon, the desire, Yada, Jada, to know, the will to know. And I think this is an importantly crucial element in marriage, the will to know and the willingness to know that which we cannot know, that there will always be a mystery. And I think whenever we would encounter, as it were, a blow or some turbulence in a marriage, we need to hark back to the lesson from Bereshis. And of course, I want to be very clear here. When I'm talking about masculine characters, we're talking from the Torah, we're talking about archetypes here. We're talking about masculine energy, which is in everybody, no matter how they identify. And when we're talking about the feminine, we're talking about feminine energy, which is in everybody, no matter how they identify. Masculine is to give, and feminine is to receive, to gestate. Masculine is to conquer. It's koach memale. It's filling the void, as it were. And feminine energy is to receive, to gestate, to be creative, to be nurturing. It's the idea of soivev, of makif, of surrounding, of transcendental. And both parties in a relationship possess both elements. And they will go in and out in a yin and yang fashion of expressing them. And that's really important. But when we come to a crossroads, when we come to some pain, Jerry Seinfeld, Rabbeinu, the Baal Chochmah V'Sechel, Jerry Seinfeld, says pain is information that is rushing to our body. It's rushing into our system. And pain is painful. Pain is difficult. And no matter what in life, we're always going to be encountering pain. That information rushing into our system. And it'll either be the pain of growing, pain that leads to growth, or the pain because we haven't followed the path to growth. We haven't made the U-turn. We haven't gone inside. We haven't gone vertically. We haven't gone deeper. When it comes to those painful episodes, we need to remember the words of Al ken ya'azov ish et aviv ve'et imo ve'davak be'ishto. Therefore, a man will leave behind his father and mother. We've talked about that in other sessions, but I want to focus on the idea of davak, to cleave, and this is an analogy for us and our connection with Hashem. Everything is is an analogy for ultimately our connection to Hashem, but Hashem wants us to not forget the mashal and the nimshal, what's the allegory itself, which is the relationship between us and our partners. Because this is a dwelling place for Hashem. Hashem desires to dwell in a relationship if we let him in. And how do we let him in? We let him in to connect to this level of davak, to cleave, to connect, to bond. It literally comes to the same word in Hebrew, devek is glue. But it's a strong yearning to become one with Hashem, and it's a strong yearning to become one with our partner. So we have devek, ledavak, to cleave to. But when that goes awry, let's change the letters around. Let's bodek, base, daled, kuf. Let's check inside what's going on. Let's listen to our parts. Let's go behind the protectors. Listen to the protectors. Who are they protecting? What are the wounded parts of us from attachment injuries, whether they were recent or long ago? They need to be listened to. They need to be unburdened, because behind the bodek we have kaved, albeit with a kuf base daled, and we can change that to a kaf. We have the heavy burdens that we're carrying inside, and they need to be listened to, and they need to be unburdened. When I look at Will and Yada, Will and Jada, the will to know, they are in a way are the mashal for all of us and all of our relationships right now, where we have pain and we have the need to make the U-turn to go inside, to understand our behaviors, to understand the things that are perhaps getting in the way of being close, to be close to one another, to give love. And I also think it's an arousal, and it's no coincidence that it happened in this week's Parsha, and the fallout is happening in these 2 weeks of Parsha, where we talk about saras, we talk about leprosy, which is a disease. It's a skin malady, which is a physical manifestation of problems that are going on internally as a result of spiritual and physical actions that a person is taking. We're explained that it's a side effect of slandering others, which in a way, is that not what Chris Rock did when he slandered and he humiliated Jada for her malady? And to quote Hannah Gadsby, who herself was reflecting on her own comedy, that humiliation is not humor. Humiliation is not funny. And we can debate whether it's comedy or not, but at the very least it's bad comedy. This is not something we want to pursue. This is very sibling society type, horizontal. We want to go vertical. We want to go deep. So we have to understand that when we have these physical manifestations, and I'm going to be bold here, and I'm going to say maybe Jada needs to go deep and go understanding what is her alopecia manifesting, because sometimes parts can pull on autoimmune diseases, or parts can pull on physical blemishes like leprosy to get our attention. I myself, through my own voyage of self-discovery, found a self-like manager who, when he was taking on the stress of the system, worried about certain things going on, I broke out in a rash from stress, because he wanted to be listened to. He wanted to be, as it were, relieved from carrying the heavy burden that he was carrying, because a manager is not self. And how do we take these blemishes? How do we take these autoimmune diseases, which research has shown with the rheumatoid arthritis study that IFS can actually help? Brass tacks, sessions of IFS can help relieve symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis. That was proven. A randomized controlled trial. This is science, people. If you don't like it, then find your own other data that makes you happier. But the data's there. We need to listen to these parts. We need to listen, go inside to when we're manifesting illnesses or rashes or disease or stress or palpitations or whatever it is, because it's coming to teach us a lesson, as the Baal Shem Tov would say. Robert Bly says, all parts of our personality that we do not love will ultimately become hostile to us. My take on that, and my take integrating this idea of the saras and IFS and diseases, all parts that we do not listen to ultimately get louder. And right now, Will Smith and Jada, they're getting on the stage, and they're really getting loud because they're asking us to all listen inside, to all make that U-turn inside and see what's going on internally, see where that pain, where that information is flowing, and where we need to compassionately bring it to the Kohen within, the chesed within, the loving kindness, the self-energy within, so we can look at it and we can get to know it. And it all boils down to whether or not we have the will to know. So I hope you're all staying curious, staying compassionate, and staying Hasidic at home, and look after yourselves. Yalla bye, have a great week.